The ruins were quiet. Too quiet. Ray stepped carefully over the broken stones, his boots crunching softly. Wind whispered through the hollow remains of what once was a city, now swallowed by dust and time. He paused and looked around, raising his scanner. The device beeped once. Energy. Faint but still active. This place should be dead, Ray muttered to himself. He had been sent here alone, part of an exploration unit. The alien race that once lived here, the Krillari, had vanished long ago. Their planet had been declared off-limits by most galactic powers. Too dangerous, too mysterious. Some said there were traps. Others said there were worse things, ancient powers that could shatter minds. But Ray didn't believe in ghost stories. He moved deeper into a large hall covered in carvings. The symbols on the walls glowed faintly, just enough to cast shadows. A strange circle lay at the center, flat, metallic, and pulsing with a soft light. Curious, Ray stepped onto it. There was a sudden hum, and the air around him shimmered. He quickly backed away, but it was too late. The light grew, forming a tall shape in front of him. Ray reached for his blaster but stopped. It was a woman. No, something more than that. She was tall, almost 7 feet, her skin a silvery blue with dark marks that ran like veins. Her armor was black and sharp-edged, and her eyes glowed softly like the carvings. Her hair, silver-white, floated slightly as if underwater. Her voice was calm but cold. "Why are you here, human?" Ray didn't answer. His hand stayed near his sidearm, but he didn't draw it. His eyes met hers steady. She narrowed her gaze. "You stand on sacred ground. You have no right." "I came looking for knowledge," Ray said. "Not trouble." She stepped forward. The room grew colder. There was something in her presence, an unseen pressure that made the air heavier. A strange feeling touched Ray's mind, as if fear itself was trying to rise. And then she said it, slow and sharp. "Why aren't you petrified?" "Human?" Her tone was not angry. It was confused. Most beings would be on the ground by now, frozen, shaking. Her kind, the Krillari, had been known across the galaxy for their ability to project fear. They didn't need weapons. Their gaze was enough. Some called it magic. Others called it mind control. Whatever it was, it always worked. But not this time. Ray stared at her, calm, not cocky, not foolish, just still. Then softly he replied, "Because I've seen worse, within myself." She blinked. The cold in the air faded for a moment. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice less certain now. Ray lowered his scanner. "You think fear controls everything, but it doesn't. I've fought in wars. I've seen friends die. I've walked through fire and ruin. I've watched people beg for life while I could do nothing. I've lived through things no one should." He stepped forward, just a little. "I'm not afraid of you. Not because I'm strong, but because I've already survived fear." The alien woman, her name was Thalvara, though Ray didn't know it yet, felt something strange move down her spine. A chill, not caused by power, but by something else. Doubt. He wasn't lying. She could feel it. His eyes didn't show arrogance. Just pain. And strength. For the first time in decades, she felt unsure. Thalvara crossed her arms, her sharp armor making a slight clink. "You're either very foolish or very brave." "Maybe both," Ray said with a half-smile. There was a pause. The strange light of the gate still hummed behind her. Whatever had brought her here, it had chosen now, chosen him. "You activated the gate of waking," she said. "It responds only to minds that are worthy." "I didn't do anything," Ray said. "I was just curious." Thalvara looked at him closely. "Curiosity is rare. Among my people, it is not always praised." Ray shrugged. "Among mine, it's what started everything. Space travel, peace, war, mistakes, discovery. We keep pushing forward. Even when it's terrifying." She looked at the ancient symbols glowing around them. "Perhaps that is why the gate responded." Ray tilted his head. "Why? Because I'm human?" "No," she said slowly. "Because you're not afraid to Feel feared and keep moving anyway. That idea struck her as strange. To her people, fear was a weapon, a tool, but this human, he saw it as something to walk through, not avoid. There was another silence. Heavy, but not hostile. Ray took a breath. So what happens now? You going to destroy me for stepping on your sacred ground? Thalvara was quiet. She should. That was the rule. But something stopped her. Instead, she said, "You will follow me. There is more to see." Ray raised an eyebrow. "You sure? I'm not exactly a trained explorer." She gave a very slight, unreadable smile. "No, but you are something different. And I want to know why." Together, they walked deeper into the ruins. The light shifted as the path opened, revealing more chambers, more secrets. The Krillari woman, once a weapon of fear, now walked beside a human whose calm words had shaken her more than any battle. Far above them, hidden in space, others began to notice the change in energy. Something old had awakened, and it had chosen a human. Ray followed Thalvara through the ancient hallway. The air was thick with silence. The only sound was the soft hum of energy running through the walls. Strange carvings glowed faintly around them, casting moving shadows on the cracked stone floor. He had expected her to attack or at least lock him up, but instead she was guiding him deeper into the ruins without saying much. Every few steps she would glance at him, not in anger, but with curiosity. Finally, Ray spoke. "You still haven't told me who you are." She stopped. "I am Thalvara, daughter of the Krillari High Command, guardian of the gate, last sentinel of this world." Ray nodded slowly. "Sounds like a heavy title." "It is," she replied without pride or emotion. They continued walking until they reached a large, circular room. The walls were higher here, and in the center stood a tall pillar with rings of writing circling around it. A blue light floated above it, spinning slowly. Thalvara motioned toward the pillar. "This is the memory spire. It stores visions of the past. The Krillari built it to teach the next generation through sight and thought." Ray looked around. "There's no next generation here now." "No," she said softly. "There isn't." She touched the pillar, and the blue light grew brighter. Suddenly, the air shifted. The room darkened, and ghostly images appeared. Around them, scenes of a thriving alien city, tall towers, flying ships, and people who looked like Thalvara. Then the images changed, fire, war, screaming. Ray watched silently as the city burned, the towers fell, and the people disappeared one by one. "The Great Fear War," she said, not looking at him. "Our gift became our curse. We believed that fear was the key to control. We used it too much on too many, even on each other." Ray crossed his arms. "What happened?" "Some resisted, some broke, and some, like me, were left behind. The visions faded. The room returned to normal." Thalvara stepped away from the pillar. Ray asked, "So why stay here? This place looks dead." "It is," she replied. "But I was chosen to guard it, to wait for a sign." Ray looked at her directly. "And you think I'm the sign?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "But the gate opened for you. The pillar responded to your presence. That has never happened before." Ray sat down on a nearby stone. "Maybe your people misunderstood fear. We humans see fear every day. It doesn't stop us. Sometimes it even makes us stronger." Thalvara turned her gaze toward him. "Stronger?" "Yeah. When you're afraid but you keep going, that's courage. Not the absence of fear, but the power to walk through it." She thought about that for a long moment. No Krillari had ever spoken that way. To them, fear was a tool, a weapon. But this human, he made it sound like a teacher. Ray stood up again. "So what now? You gonna keep testing me?" "No. But others will." "What others?" Before she could answer, a sudden noise filled the room. A sharp crack echoed from above. Thalvara's eyes widened. "They found us." Ray turned quickly. "Who?" She stepped in front of him. "My people, or what's left of them. The enforcers. Before Ray could ask more, the ceiling cracked and a blue light burst through. A group of tall figures descended from above wearing the same black armor as Thalvara, but more angular and fierce. Their eyes glowed red. The leader of the group stepped forward. His voice was sharp and cold. Thalvara, you have broken your command. She stood tall. This human awakened the gate. The ruins responded to him. He is a trespasser, he must be removed. Ray could feel the air tighten again. Fear. But this time, it wasn't like before. It was deeper, colder. He clenched his fists and stared. Back. He wouldn't run. Thalvara raised a hand. He is not like the others. He resists the fear. He should not be destroyed. The leader snapped. You speak out of turn. Our ways are not to be questioned. Ray stepped forward. You can't force people to grow through fear, you break them. That's not power. The enforcer growled. You are not one of us, human. Ray smirked slightly. Exactly. And maybe that's the problem. One of the soldiers moved quickly, raising a weapon. But Thalvara blocked the shot with her arm, the blast deflecting off her armor. She shouted, Enough! The soldiers paused. She looked around the room, breathing hard. The Krillari are dying because we refuse to change. This human is not our enemy. He may be our only chance. The enforcer looked at her with disgust. You have grown weak. No, she said firmly. I've grown aware. Without warning, the enforcers attacked. Ray ducked and rolled as blasts shot past him. Thalvara moved like a shadow, blocking attacks with her blade and armor. She fought her own kind, not with hate, but with purpose. Ray saw fallen soldiers, weapon nearby. He picked it up, unfamiliar but not useless. With a few quick shots, he helped cover Thalvara's back. The battle was fast and brutal. Ray was injured on his shoulder, but he kept moving. Thalvara protected him with everything she had. Finally, the enforcers fell back. The leader, wounded, gave one last look at Thalvara. You have chosen exile, he said coldly. You are no longer Krillari. Then they vanished in a flash of light. The silence returned. Ray leaned against a wall, breathing hard. Well, that went great. Thalvara looked at him. You fought well. You too, he replied with a tired smile. She looked down. I've never fought against my own people before. Sometimes standing for what's right means standing alone. Thalvara nodded. Maybe I was wrong about your kind. Maybe there is more to humans than I believed. Ray winced as he sat down. Trust me, we're full of surprises. Thalvara sat beside him. The energy in the room calmed. No more fear. Just quiet. And maybe a new beginning. Ray sat near the ruin's outer wall, wrapping a cloth around his wounded shoulder. The blast hadn't gone deep, but it burned. Still, he stayed quiet, gritting his teeth while Thalvara adjusted the knot. You should rest, she said, pulling the cloth tighter. I'll be fine, Ray replied. You Krillari always think humans are fragile. She gave him a sharp look but didn't argue. Instead, she sat beside him and looked at the open sky. The stars above were clearer here, untouched by the pollution or lights of cities. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Thalvara said, I have committed a serious offense. Defending you. Standing against the enforcers. I have broken ancient law. Ray leaned back against the wall. You could have let them kill me. I know, she said softly. Ray looked at her. Why didn't you? Thalvara hesitated. Her fingers touched the edge of her armor, then slowly clenched. You reminded me of something. Something I had almost forgotten. Before the war, before the fear. When I was young, I believed our power was meant to protect, not to control. But fear became our only weapon, and we used it too well. It turned us into something cold. Ray nodded. It's easier to rule through fear than to inspire. Her gaze turned to him again. But you resisted us. You stood tall, no training, no defenses, just willpower. That frightened me more than anything. Ray smiled. Now you know how humans survive. Thalvara stood and looked toward the glowing spire in the distance. There's something I need to show you, something hidden in the lower chambers. My people never dared enter it, but now, maybe you should. Ray frowned. If your own people avoided it, are you sure it's safe? No, she said plainly. But that's what makes it important. The way down was long and narrow, through broken stone corridors and staircases deep beneath the surface. Strange blue moss grew on the walls, glowing faintly. The temperature dropped the deeper they went, and the silence became heavier. Thalvara stopped at a sealed doorway covered in ancient writing. It shimmered when she touched it, reacting to her presence, but it didn't open. Ray looked at her. Need help? Try placing your hand here, she said, pointing to a symbol shaped like a star. Ray stepped forward, hesitated, and then placed his hand on the symbol. The door lit up, then slowly opened with a deep grinding sound. Inside, the chamber was massive, round and filled with floating crystals, each giving off a soft light. In the center stood a strange device shaped like a ring, suspended above a platform. Ray's eyes widened. What is this? Thalvara stepped beside him. This is the core of memory, the very heart of the Krillari knowledge system. It stores not just history, but emotions, thoughts, even memories from our ancestors. Ray walked slowly around the platform. You mean, it holds your people's minds? Yes, she said, but only those who were brave enough to share their true fears. He stopped. Why? Because true growth comes not from strength, but from understanding fear. This chamber was meant to guide future leaders, but most of us were too proud to use it. We feared revealing our weakness. Ray looked at the crystals. Each one seemed to pulse faintly when he passed. Why bring me here? He asked. Because the core chose to open for you, she replied. It only responds to minds that have faced fear honestly. Somehow, it sees that in you. Ray turned to her. What do I do? Thalvara pointed to the ring-shaped device. Step inside. If the core accepts you, it will show you something. Something we were never able to see. Ray hesitated, but only for a moment. Then he stepped into the ring. The crystals around the room began to glow. A pulse of light surged through the platform, and suddenly, Ray felt his mind pulled into a strange place. He stood in darkness. Then a soft voice echoed around him. Human, do you fear? Ray took a deep breath. Yes. Images appeared. His home on Earth, a burning battlefield, a friend falling beside him, a moment where he almost gave up. The pain returned, but he stayed still. And yet you live. I kept going, Ray said, because I had to. Do you wish to forget? No, he answered. Those memories made me stronger. There was silence. And then the darkness faded into light. Ray opened his eyes and found himself standing back in the chamber. Thalvara was watching him, surprised. You were only gone for a few seconds, she said. Ray looked around. The crystals now glowed brighter. I saw everything. My past, my fears. It didn't erase them. It showed me how to carry them. Thalvara nodded slowly. Then the core has accepted you. Suddenly a soft hum filled the room. A crystal floated toward Ray and hovered near his chest. Then it slowly sank into his armor, merging with it. A symbol appeared over his heart. Part of the Krillari language. What is that? Ray asked. A mark of connection, she said. You are now a keeper of memory. You carry our hopes and our truth. Ray felt a deep pressure in his chest, but it wasn't heavy. It was warm, steady. We should leave, Thalvara said. The others will come again, but now we are not alone. Ray looked at her. You mean you and me? She nodded. And those who came before. Their memories live inside you now. And maybe a new path can begin with you. Ray smiled faintly. Guess I'm part of something bigger now. Together, They walked out of the chamber, the path behind them glowing brighter than before. Talvara no longer walked ahead of him, but beside him, as equals. In the quiet distance, a whisper traveled through the ruins. The Krillari feared change, but now change had come, in the form of a human who had the courage to face fear without running, and it had already begun to shake the stars. Ray and Talvara stepped out of the chamber, walking slowly through the quiet ruins. The crystals behind them dimmed, and the door closed gently, as if the ancient place had returned to sleep. Ray's chest still glowed faintly where the memory crystal had merged into him. It didn't hurt. In fact, he felt stronger. Not physically, but inside, as if a light had turned on in the darkest part of his mind. Talvara watched him with silent thought. Her expression had changed. Less strict, more thoughtful. She no longer saw him as just a curious outsider. Now she saw something different, a possible bridge between her people and the rest of the galaxy. As they moved through the upper halls, she finally spoke. You carry a part of our past now. That crystal, it holds memories of leaders, warriors, healers. You may feel their voices, sometimes clear, sometimes like a dream. Ray nodded. I've already felt something. It's hard to explain, but I understand things now. I don't even know how. Talvara smiled slightly. That is the gift of the core. It doesn't give power. It gives wisdom. Ray looked at her. Why didn't your people use it more often? She looked away. Because wisdom often brings pain, and many fear what they will see when they look inside themselves. Suddenly the air changed. The calm silence that had filled the ruins now felt heavy again. Ray stopped. Did you feel that? Talvara's hand went to her weapon. Her voice was quiet. Yes. They're here. From the far end of the hallway came a sharp sound. Footsteps, armor, and the low hum of energy weapons. The enforcers had returned. But this time, they were not just a few. They came in full force, at least a dozen, maybe more. Their leader was back too, the red-eyed figure whose voice Ray remembered clearly. You should not have come back, Talvara said, standing firm. The leader's eyes scanned the room and landed on Ray. And you should not have chosen him. Ray stepped forward. I didn't ask to be chosen, but I'm not running. You carry the mark, the leader said, seeing the symbol on Ray's chest. You have touched what was forbidden. It wasn't forbidden for him, Talvara said sharply. The core accepted him. He is not Krillari, the leader growled. He is human, weak, flesh and emotion. He is more than that, Talvara said. He is what we have forgotten to be. The enforcer raised his hand and his soldiers took position. Then you are lost. Both of you. Ray whispered to her. What now? We stand, she replied. Without warning, the enforcers attacked. The hallway turned into a storm of light and sound. Blue and red energy bolts flew past, slamming into walls, shaking the ground. Talvara moved fast, her blade flashing, armor deflecting hits. Ray ducked behind a stone and returned fire with a weapon he had taken earlier. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but he still remembered how to fight. One enforcer moved too close. Ray hit him with the butt of his weapon, knocking the helmet off. He saw fear in the alien's eyes, real fear. For a second, the enforcer froze, unsure. Then he backed away. Ray realized something important. They're not invincible. He shouted. They just act like they are. Talvara struck down two more and nodded. Fear has always been their mask. Now they are facing someone who doesn't wear one. The battle continued. Slowly, the enforcers began to fall back. One by one, their formation broke. The fear they used no longer worked. Ray stood tall even when hurt. Talvara didn't hesitate. Finally, the leader was alone. He looked around, breathing hard. The red in his eyes faded slightly. You have broken everything, he said, staring at Talvara. She walked toward him. No, I've rebuilt something. Ray stepped beside her. It's over. The enforcer looked at them both, then at the symbol on Ray's chest. He said nothing. With a final look of disbelief, he activated a teleport device and vanished. Silence. Returned. Ray dropped his weapon and sat down, tired and covered in dust. Thalvara stood quietly, watching him. You didn't need to fight, she said. Yes, I did, Ray replied. I couldn't let you do it alone. She nodded slowly, then sat beside him. The Corps chose you, she said again. But I see now. You chose us too. Ray smiled faintly. I didn't come here to be a hero. I just followed my curiosity. And that curiosity may have saved us. They sat in the still ruins, the lights dim but calm. No more fear in the air, only quiet hope. Then, from the far end of the hall, another figure arrived. It was a Krillari, not an enforcer, but a younger one, dressed in simple robes. His eyes were wide, not with fear, but with awe. I saw what happened, he said. You resisted them, both of you. Thalvara stood. Who are you? I'm just a scholar, he said. But I was hiding, watching, and now I want to learn. I want to know what he knows. Ray stood too. You're not afraid? The young Krillari shook his head. No. I want to understand. Thalvara looked at Ray. It has begun. Far above the ruined world, signals began to spread. Stories of a human who stood against fear, a Krillari who turned away from control, and a forgotten planet where something new had started to grow. Ray didn't know what the future would hold, but he knew one thing. He had helped light a spark, and sometimes a single spark could change a whole galaxy. The days passed quietly in the ruins. The wind still howled outside, but something in the air had changed. Where there was once fear and silence, now there was movement. Curious Krillari arrived, one by one, young ones, wanderers, thinkers, and even quiet rebels from the old way. They came not to fight, but to listen. Ray stood on the edge of the ruins, watching the sunrise spill golden light across the broken stones. He breathed deeply. The wound on his shoulder had started to heal. The mark on his chest still glowed, calm and warm. He didn't feel like a hero. He never wanted to be one. But something inside him told him this was the right place. The right moment. Behind him, Thalvara approached. She wore different armor now. Lighter, less threatening, more ceremonial. You're awake early, she said softly. Ray smiled. Old habits? Soldiers learn not to sleep too long in unfamiliar places. She looked out at the horizon with him. This place is changing. Yeah, he said. Because of you. Thalvara shook her head. No, because of us. Ray turned to her. Do you think the others will accept this? A new path? Some already have, she answered. Others will take time, and there will be some who never change. Ray nodded. Same with humans. They stood silently for a while. Birds flew over the distant cliffs. A soft wind moved the dust gently across the ground. Then a young Krillari approached them, a girl, barely an adult. She carried a book, hand-carved and old. May I speak with the human? She asked politely. Thalvara nodded. Of course. Ray turned to the girl. She stepped forward slowly, holding out the book. This is my father's journal, she said. He was a war leader. Before the fall, he believed in the old ways, but I read his words and I think he was afraid of change, afraid of what he didn't understand. Ray accepted the book. It was heavy, covered in symbols. Why give this to me? He asked. Because you're not afraid, she replied. And I want to learn how not to be. Ray didn't know what to say. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Not being afraid doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you face it, even when it hurts. She smiled and bowed slightly, then walked away. Thalvara spoke quietly. They're beginning to understand. You've given them more than knowledge. You've given them permission to feel, something we were never allowed. Ray looked down at the book. No one should be punished for being afraid. Later that day, a meeting was held in the center of the ruins. Many Krillari had gathered, over 50 now. Some wore robes, others armor, and a few still looked cautious, but none attacked, none used fear. Thalvara stood at the front. Ray stood beside her. She raised her voice, strong but peaceful. We have lived in fear for too long. We believed fear was strength, but fear without wisdom is a cage. The crowd listened in silence. This human, Ray, was not born among us. He came from a world far away, a world filled with its own struggles. But he brought something we forgot: courage through choice. She turned slightly and nodded to Ray. He stepped forward. I didn't come here to lead anyone, he began. I didn't come to fight or teach. I was just curious. Some of the Krillari nodded. But when I faced your strongest warriors, I didn't run. Not because I was stronger, but because I've already been afraid many times. I've just learned not to let it control me. He held up the book the young girl had given him. I read stories from your people. Stories of pain, loss, and fear. You felt everything we humans do. You just stopped talking about it. That's what broke you. There was a heavy silence. Ray took a breath. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be honest. That's how you build something new. He stepped back. Thalvara raised her hand. Today, we end the old laws. No more punishments for fear. No more silence in pain. We will remember who we were and who we wish to become. The Krillari bowed their heads in agreement. That night, Ray sat by a fire with Thalvara. The stars above seemed brighter than usual. You've done something great, she said. So have you, Ray replied. She looked at the fire. I once believed fear made me strong, but it only made me cold. Now I feel again, and it's strange, but not unwelcome. Ray smiled. Feelings are messy, but they're real. She turned to him, her silver eyes soft. Will you stay? Ray paused, then nodded. Yeah, for now. Maybe longer. The fire crackled gently. Thalvara reached into her cloak and pulled out a small crystal, clear, glowing with pale light. This is a memory seed, she said. It can record a moment, a thought, a feeling. Would you place one inside the core? Ray took the crystal. What should I say? Whatever your heart wants to remember, she whispered. The next day, Ray returned to the core chamber. The ancient light welcomed him again. He stood before the ring and placed the crystal at its center. He spoke softly. I was afraid when I came here, not of you, but of being alone again. I've lost people, I've made mistakes, but now I think I understand something. Courage isn't a weapon, it's a light. And sometimes it only takes one small light to show the way. In a dark place, the crystal sank into the platform, glowing warmly. Outside, the Krillari world slowly came alive again. Epilogue. Across the stars, whispers spread of a human who walked through the ruins of a broken world and changed it without force. He brought no army, no war, just a steady gaze, a brave heart, and a truth too long buried. Fear had ruled the Krillari for generations, but it was a human, one not frozen by fear, who reminded them that true strength lies in the choice to feel, to heal, and to move forward, and that truth would never be forgotten.